Hello all, welcome to Automation Technical Learning. This is Srinivas here, and this is Java Refresher Session 2. As part of this session, we are going to learn all these topics. So we'll start with working with arrays, then we'll go through conditional and loops. We will learn when to use break and continue. Then we'll see string class in detail, and then we'll see casting. Okay, so let us start with working with arrays. Basically, arrays is a collection of same primitive data. So if you have any such requirements, you can use array to create that. So basically, whenever you are creating an array, it is an object reference and not primitive data type anymore, even though you have created array of primitive data type. Okay, so how do you declare an array? You can declare an array using primitive data type, variable name equal to new primitive data type, and then in square bracket you can provide the size of that particular array. So you should know beforehand what is the size of your array when you are declaring your array in Java. Okay, so now let us see how we can create in Eclipse. So I will create a package called as session 2, and I'm going to create a class, and I'll call it as learn arrays. Okay, and I'm going to define main method as usual, and then I'm going to create an array. So how will I create array? I'll say int variable name, then int, we can say square braces variable name equal to new int of size. Okay, so you can give any size to your array, but you should know the size of your array. You cannot keep it blank. So if I keep it blank, it gives the compilation error. Okay, so now this is one way of declaring. Another way of declaring the same array is something like this. Instead of giving square braces before, you can give after you give the variable name. This I'll change it to some other name for the time being. I'll say J. So now we can see that uh, both are valid, both naming conventions are correct, but from readability perspective, the first one stands good, and it looks, whenever you read this kind of line, you would immediately come to know, okay, this is array. So first one is the best practice, second one will not give any error, but you can use the first one. Okay, so instead of I, I'll make it int array. Okay, and how do you initialize the array? Okay, so to initialize the array, we have to give something like this: name of the variable, and then we have to give the position. Always array starts with 0. Then you can give the value. Let's say I am going to give the roll number of different employees as int array of 0 equal to 1 2 3 4, int array of 1 equal to some number. Okay, int array of 2 equal to 6 7. Okay, so I just remembered when I said initialization. Yesterday in the previous session we have discussed that whenever you declare a local variable, that has to be initialized. Okay, whereas if you are declaring instance variable, or if you are declaring class variables, those need not be initialized. Those will get initialized to default value. For example, if you are declaring integer type instance variable, then it will have 0 as the value. Okay, so now how do you print this array? So can I directly say, just like how we have printed primitive data types, can I simply say int array? Will it work? Let us see. So when I say right click run as Java application, I can see that it is not printing the array contents. It is printing some address. Okay, some junk character it is printing. Basically it is printing the address of it. Okay, so but you want to print the values. So if you want to print the values in Java, if you want to print specific values, then you can give that particular index. Like I want to print first value, you can pass that index, and then you can run as, say, Java application. It will print that particular value. Suppose your requirement is to print all the values in the array, then you have to go for loop. Okay, so for loop is one of the loops provided in Java. how we can use for loop is, you can say for, you can say int I equal to 0. I is the variable, local variable. It can be anything, I, j, k, l, m, n, anything. Then you can say I less than int array dot, there is a method called as length. This length method returns the size of the array, and then you can say I plus plus, basically to increment, okay, for every iteration. Okay, so that is post increment operator plus plus, I plus plus. Okay, and then we want to print the array content, so I'll just sys out, I'll write content at, and I'll say concatenate operator with I, that is the index, then I'll say plus, and then we'll say int array of I. Okay, so now let us run this program, and when we run we can see that content at 0. Okay, so what I'll do, I'll just give some more spaces so that it is easy for us to read. Run as Java application. Yeah, now we can see that content at 0 is 1 2 3 4. One second, let me just run as Java application. Okay, yeah, so content at 0 is 1 2 3 4, content at 1 is 2 3 4 5, content at 2 is 4 5 6 7, and content at 3 is 0 because I have not given the value of the index 3, so it has taken as 0. By the way, this is again, this is an instance variable that we have created, because no, sorry, this is a local variable, but it got initialized to 0 because we have not set that particular value, okay, at that third position. Okay, so now let us say that you don't know the syntax, okay, or you want to automatically write the for loop syntax. You can simply say for, and then say control space content assist. You can use this option for iterate over array. It is going to give the same syntax. Okay, so this is one way of looping. This is called as normal for loop. Okay, so there is one more loop called as enhanced for loop, so we'll just learn that now. So how you can do enhanced looping is, you have to declare array, you have to declare for, and then you can say int, you can give the variable, and then you can say colon, then you can give your array. Okay, so this is it, this is enhanced for loop. Basically you are saying you want to use j as the variable to iterate over, okay, over this array, and when I want to print, I can simply say I want to print this variable which is going to get the refer to the array, so I have to give j here. Okay, so it is going to refer to the content. So basically what happens is, first iteration it is pointing to 1 2 3 4, j is pointing to 1 2 3 4, then next it will point to 2 3 4 5, then 4 5 6 7. So this way it will retrieve the value. So when I say run as Java application, I can see that it is printing 1 2 3 4 2 3 4 5 4 5 6 7 0. Remember, if it is enhanced for loop, you should not give int array here. You should not give int array or int array of j. If you give, it will give some error, okay, and it may not work the way you have expected. See, it is giving index out of bound exception in this case. So always remember, if it is enhanced for loop, then you have to simply give the variable that is pointing to your array, that is j, not int array of j. Okay, so this is about enhanced for loop. Now we have learned how to work with any array. So you might have any requirement in your automation project. If you have to create an array, you can declare it something like this. This is syntax, basic syntax. So the same syntax holds good for any primitive, any other primitive data type. For example, If it is about float, you can say simply float. Okay, float array equal to new float. Okay, so that's all. You can give the size, so and you can continue, and then you can set the values. Okay, so same will be applicable for string type also. So if you have to store different days in a week, that is Monday to Sunday, so you'll say days in week equal to new string of 7. Okay, 7 days. So now you want to initialize them with the respective values. So you can say days in a week of 0 equal to Monday. Days in a week, of 1 equal to Tuesday. Okay, so like this you can initialize the values in the array. Okay, so this is one way to initialize. So we have seen sometimes it becomes too much difficult. If you have 50 size array or 60 size array, you have to repeat these kind of statements 50 or 60 times. Instead of doing that, if you want to initialize with some default values in for loop, you can do that as well. Okay, so we'll see that now. So if you have to initialize your array with some default values, for example, let me say int, I'll say all numbers. Okay, equal to int of 100. Okay, so if this is my array of 100 size, then do not think that I have to give new here. I have to give all numbers of I equal to 0, all numbers of 1 equal to 1, all numbers of 2 equal to 2, like that. Instead of giving like that, we can simplify our job. We can say for iterate over array, and then we can say in this we can initialize the arrays. So how we can initialize is, I'll say all numbers of I equal to I. Okay, so now what is happening is this one line is taking care of initializing my array to some value. Okay, so like this, if you have some logic, okay, to initialize your arrays, then you can use for loop for that purpose, which will take care of initializing. Okay, so now let us say that we want to print the contents of the array in another loop. So I'll print the value. Now let us see, after for, I'll say here I'll say sys out all numbers of I. Okay, one moment. Let me just change. Earlier we had error, if you remember. I have to change this to J. I have to change this to J. Okay. Now let us run it. Okay, now do we see that the last array that we declared is having content starting from 0 till 99. Okay, this is how we can declare arrays. So this is one dimensional array. One dimensional arrays, you can have one row in which you can have different column data stored. So it could happen that sometimes you have multiple rows and multiple columns data to be stored, like matrix. In such cases, your syntax would slightly differ. You have to give 2 times square braces. That's all. Let's say, for example, I'll call it as matrix. So I'll give 2 times. If it is 3-dimensional, give 3 times, like that. So I'll say matrix equal to new uh, int of, give your size of your matrix, that is int 4 by 4. So like this, and similarly, like how we have seen for one dimensional array, you are using one for loop. If you have 2-dimensional array, you have to use 2 for loops to iterate over. Okay, if you have any questions, you can get back to me. So this is how we can deal with the 2-dimensional arrays. Okay, now let's come back to the slide and let us see once whether we have covered working with arrays. Yes, we have covered working with arrays. So now let's move on to conditional and loops. So this becomes very important when you are dealing with logic. You have to write logic. So in such cases, you are going to use if conditional statement, or if else, or nested if else. You are going to use or you are going to use switch case, and you definitely need a loop when you need to repeat some of the things. Okay, so we have just seen for loop. So I'm not going to cover again for loop. Normal for loop we have seen how to use enhanced for loop. Enhanced for loop you can use for arrays, and whenever you have list or you have set, you have hash table. In such cases you can use enhanced for loop. Okay, so we'll see when to use while. So while you can use when you have some condition and you want to wait till that condition is satisfied, then you can use while loop. You can use do while loop if you want to repeat some set of actions at least once, even though the condition is satisfied or not satisfied, then you can use do while loop. Okay, and switch you can use, you have some condition for every uh, condition you want to have different cases. Okay, so we'll see that with example. Okay, and we'll understand. Okay, so let us start with if. I'm going to create a class for if. I'll say if learning. Okay, and I'll say main. Okay, so now let us try to write some logic. Okay, so I'll say if day is Sunday, okay, provide 10% discount. Okay, so this is for some shopping cart application. And if day is other day, no discount. Okay, so if this is what you have and you have to write the code for that, so definitely we have to use if in this case, because you know there is one part of condition. If it is satisfied, you want to have something else, you want to have something else. Okay, so I'll say if let us define a variable with the string. So this is a local variable inside main, so I'll say string day equal to Sunday. Okay, so if day dot, there is a method called as equals, which we can use to check whether it is equal to that particular day or not. You can see if day is equal to Sunday, then let us print that sys out provide 10% discount. Okay, and then you're going to say else. If it is not, then you want to say that no discount. Okay, so like this we can have if else statement. So you can have nested if else also, like if you have else here and then you can have one more if here, like if again day is equal to something else and you want to provide some other discount, so then you can have nested if else continued. Okay, so but the syntax would remain almost the same, but make sure you provide the braces properly. Okay, so one more thing is if it is single statement, you don't have to provide brace. So Java compiler will understand that this if statement is going to have this particular line. Okay, so that is what compiler will understand. But suppose you have multiple lines to be included in the condition, then make sure you give the braces, flower braces. Okay, so this will also work. Let us run this code now. Run as Java application, and today being Sunday, you will get 10% discount. Okay, so like this. So this is about if else. Now coming to switch. Okay, so this was very simple case. Okay, now let us imagine you have different days, like you have day one Monday. Let's say one is Monday, two is Tuesday, like that. So for every day there is one particular activity that you're going to do in office. Okay, so in such cases, you if you are using if else, it will take huge number of lines for you to write So for you to write very effectively, you can use switch case. Okay, so let us see switch case. You can have new, I'll create a class, sorry. I'll create a class, new class, I'll call it as switch case, and I'll have the main. Okay, so now let us start with the int I equal to 2. Okay, and let's say you have a switch. Okay, so let's say you don't know the switch syntax. Okay, so we'll basically switch takes a key. Key can be anything. So in this case, I'm going to give key is I. So if switch, if I, it is going to have a particular case like case 1. If it is case 1, let us say this out. I'll say today is Monday. Okay, and if it is case 2, for every case you have to make sure that there is a break given. Okay, so if you have not given break, then all the cases will be executed. So now this is case 2, so I'll say today is Tuesday. Okay, so like this, and default is break. So for the default, again for this I'll give break, and for the default I'll say this out today is Sunday. Okay, so I mean, just for logic, just for understanding the switch case, we are writing this code, and let us run this code. Our I is 2, and since I is 2, it is going to come to case 2, and it is going to execute this particular statement, and it has printed today is Tuesday. Okay, and let's say you pass I value, not 1 or 2, you will pass something like 4, and when you are executing it, you are getting today is Sunday. Okay, so this is just a hypothetical case. I have showed how we can use switch case when you have multiple cases for different functionality. But here remember one thing, you have to make sure you give break. Okay, so if you don't give break, like in this case, let me just remove this break and let us run this code. What will happen is it will run all the cases irrespective of the data that is passed. So that is logical mistake. So we have to make sure we pass the break. Okay. So this is about switch case, and next we will discuss about while loop, when we can use while loop. We have seen for loop when to use. So now while loop, and define a main. Okay. So now let's say I have a number int I equal to, let's say, some number. Okay. Okay. I want to basically let's say I want to do modulo of this. So modulo operator is percentage. I want to modulo with the 2, and let's say I want to repeat it till I get 0. Okay, so I'll say while I, okay, this is I modulo 2, it will have some value. Okay, so then I will I'll store this value first somewhere. So this modulo 2 value, I'll store it in int again, mod output equal to. Okay, so this is stored in this, and now let's say I want to use while loop for a certain condition to be satisfied. Okay, so I can define while loop like this, and I can start it here. So this while part will take your condition. So whichever condition you have, you can give it here. Now let me say that okay, this is returning integer. So what I'll do, I'll take integer if this is equal to let us see, I want it to be returning some number equal to 1. Okay, so then I'll say this out. Okay, now can we see that it is continuously running? Why it is continuously running is what is the value it is returning? Mod is returning 1 in this case, and it is matched, so it is inside the loop and it is continuously running. Okay, so this is going for infinite loop. So I'll just stop this program. So this is when you can go for while loop. So this is just hypothetical loop code which I have written. So in your automation uh, projects, you might have cases wherein you want to wait till the element is appeared. You want to give delay till that particular element state is changed. Okay, so in such cases you can go for while loop, have that condition added, and iterate in while loop till it is reached to that condition which is satisfied. Okay, so other way to write while dummy kind of while loop is you can say boolean flag. So generally by using flag you can say boolean flag equal to true or false, and then you can use that boolean flag inside while loop. Okay, and then in this body of while you can write the logic, and only when that condition is satisfied, make sure you set flag equal to false so that it comes out of while loop. Okay, so this is how we can use while loop. Now do while loop is just almost similar, only thing is it will execute at least once even though the condition is satisfied or not satisfied. So do while loop is something like this. You will say do, and you will say while, then it will check for condition. So first time it is going to execute all the set of statements, and then it will check for the condition, that is do while. Okay, so this is about do while loop. So these are the different loops that are available. And next we are going to see use of break and continue. So so now let us see that through example. I'll create a new class. Okay, let us define one for loop now. I'll say for int y equal to 0, I less than 100, I plus plus. And now let us say if I equal to 33 or something, any number. Okay, and I want to print here. Okay, I'll put the print after if, and let's say if I is equal to 33, I am going to say break. So basically what this break statement will do is, if your condition is satisfied and whenever you call a break, we have seen break in switch case also. So break is it will come out of the innermost loop. So innermost loop is for loop in this case. So whenever you are called break, it will come out of it and it will no longer execute your for loop. Okay, so in this case till 32 it has printed the data, and when it has come to 33 condition is satisfied, so break is called, and it could not execute further, it came out of it, that is break. Continue is what continue will do is it will continue in the same loop, uh, but it will skip the current iteration, that is continue. Now let us see this. I'll say continue now here instead of break. I'll say continue, and I'll just run this code. Yeah, now we can see that it has executed the code, and starting from 0 it has printed. Okay, so now just notice one thing, till 32 it has printed, 33 is not printed, because when 33 I reaches 33, continue was called, so it has not executed this sysout statement. It directly jumped to the next iteration. So the I became 34 and it continued printing rest of the values. That is the difference between break and continue. Okay, I hope it is clear. And now next let us move to string class. String class is very important. So by using string class, we can deal with strings. So there are many methods that are available, like concat, which can be used for concatenating two strings or multiple strings. Length we can use to get the size of string. Contains we can use to check uh, substring containing in main string. Then equals we can use to compare two strings. We have already seen that in earlier example. Two lowercase you can use to convert all the cases to lowercase in string, and to upper is to set it to upper. Trim will remove the all the spaces before and after the string. Split can be used to split a string into two or three parts. Basically, when you call split, it will create a string array. Okay, now let us see through example, and we will understand all these methods. First, I'll create a string. Let me create a main string. I'll call it as str1 equal to, okay, and I'll call it as string str2 equal to, okay. So now how we can concatenate between two strings is, we can say str1 dot concat str2. So this is how we can concatenate between two strings, and we can say string str3 equal to, and I'll say this out str3. Now let us run this program and see the output. We can see that it has concatenated today is a and beautiful day into one string. That is concatenation. So next is to check part of string in main string. If you have to check there is a today in str1, you can say str1 dot contain. So that will contains. You are going to check. If it contains, it returns true or false. Okay, so I'll say I'll use if for that purpose. I'll say if it contains, I'll say this out string contains today, else this out string does not contain today. Now let us run this. Yeah, string contains today, that is true. So this contains is very useful. So in automation, when you have one big string and you have to check for particular number or particular data that is available, you can use contains method. Okay, so we have seen contains, we have seen uh, concat. So equals is same, you can just use equals method, which can be used to compare two strings. Okay, two lower, two upper, you can try it yourself. Trim simply removes the spaces. So for example, if I take str1 this out and I am saying str1 dot trim, and if I'm going to print it, so it will remove the spaces that is available after the string. So there was additional space, it got removed by using trim method. Okay, now let us see split method. Now let's say that you want to divide your string into two or more parts depending on a particular key that you're going to pass. So let's take str2 dot, I'll say split. I want to split based on spaces. So I'll say space. Okay, so now this is going to return an array. So I'll say string array split data equal to. Okay, so now let us this is going to return an array. So now we know how to work with array. So if you have to print all the contents of the array, you can say for iterate over array, it will iterate over array, and we want to print the contents, so I'll say split data dot equals no, let's simply print. Okay, I'll not write any logic, I'll use I here. Yeah, now we are going to run it, and now we can see that it has divided into two parts, that is string2, which is having beautiful day, into beautiful and day. So like this, we can see that it has divided into two parts. Okay, so this is about strings, and now next topic what we have is casting. So generally casting you can use to assign one type of variable value to another type of variable value. That is called as typecasting. Okay, for example, you have integer data, you want to convert it to long data, or you want to convert it to double data. Then you can mainly you are going to use this casting technique. There are two types of casting available: widening casting, which is implicit, and narrowing casting. Widening casting is you have a smaller data type data, and you want to store it in longer data type. For example, you have integer data, you want to store it in longer is longer data type. So you can directly say int I equal to 100. If you have defined directly, you can say long L equal to I. So this way you can have implicit casting. Okay, so now let's come back, let's see through example. I'll say new class casting, and I will define main method. Okay, so now let me define integer value, anything. I'll just define some value, and now let's say you want to convert it to long value. Okay, so you can simply say long, any long variable name equal to, you can say I. So basically in this process what you did is you have converted lower data type value to a higher data type value. This is widening casting. So this is implicit, you don't have to define casting variable. I can say sys out, I can say L, it is going to print. See, we can see that it is printed. Now let us try to do the reverse process, that is you want to convert a long value to integer value. I'll define long, uh, I'll say L2 equal to, I have let's say 200. Okay, I want to convert it to integer, so I'll say int I2 equal to L2. Okay, so if I say like that, so will it work directly? No, because you are trying to store longer data type value into shorter data type value. Okay, so this is narrow casting. So in this case you have to explicitly give here like this int. So when you give like this, then it there is no compilation error, and you can say I2, and we will see that it is giving the data returned. Okay, so this way we can use widening casting or narrowing casting. Remember that if it is narrowing casting, explicitly you have to give in bracket which type you are trying to convert. Okay, so this is about casting, and that's all for this particular session, and in next sessions we'll see other topics. Thank you.